Would try, see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're starting to just build a HF station or VHF or UHF station, whatever you're building, when you're putting it together at the house or even portable, you're going to have a transceiver. You have something to control it. For the pack, you're going to need some coax, feed line, something like that, right? Antenna, power source. Maybe you have a computer, maybe clock. You're going to need chair, tables, shelters, stuff like that. So if you can have these things packaged up and ready, it makes your life easier if you're going to go portable, right? So that leads up question: why would you build a go box? In other words, a station or components of a station packed up so that you can hit the road real quick. Do you guys have any ideas why you'd want to do that? Always leave stuff alone. Okay. Mr. Winston, that is awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, part of this is convenience, right? It's because you can pack up and put all your stuff together really quickly and hopefully don't have to look for stuff, right? And that was the point I was talking about, minimize snipe hunting. Snipe hunting is like, crap, what do I need to bring in? Did I remember to bring it all? Okay. Another one, if you're doing FEMA or Aries or whatever, right? You need to pack up, go someplace, take your equipment with you. If it's already packed up, ready to go, you can really make a big difference in your response time. Know if you guys, did you have any examples of that for doing drills or anything? You guys did any area emergency response?
I wasn't paying attention. I'm focused on this. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Um,
And the other thing is minimize your preparation for getting ready to go out. You guys see any other reason why we'd have stuff ready to go? That's more or less most.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. That's
Weather, whatever.
right.
Politics.
You're ready to go at a moment's notice.
Keep Lahaina in mind.
What's that?
Keep Lahaina in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Do we hit the next slide? So there's a lot of online resources that I had started to look at to get an idea what I wanted to have in my box. I already had a pretty good idea. And my reason, there was two reasons for it to have a go box. The first reason was, yeah, if I wanted to take go camping or go portable, I want to be able to pick the equipment up. The other thing was my equipment was, I had a couple other transceivers sitting around and with different boxes, and the whole thing was a bit of a mess. And so I really had to take things apart. And when it came time to go, I was like, I don't want to go. And it's like, I got to take this stuff all apart. Well, by doing this, I packed the equipment up in a go box and I have it actually sitting on the station and I don't have to repack it or anything. And the clutter on my station is a lot less now. I don't have the clutter and the junk because it's all sitting in the box now. So it's a lot better organized. Okay, so whenever you're kind of building your own kit, you want to think about where are you going to take it.
Go ahead, I'll move.
I'm sorry, I don't stand still very well.
No, that's fine. I should be moving. Don't worry.
Just like, how much weight do you want to pack? You know, are you going to go do so I had to look soda up. I know what soda means now. You guys heard of soda? I keep hearing the soda and I was like, what? Is that something you drank? Come out of a can?
That's with a D.
And then I found, oh, okay, that's the Summit on the air. That's where people like to go backpacking. They'll make sure they got QRP equipment and go lightweight.
Not necessarily.
What's that?
Not necessarily.
What?
Some people carry a 7,300.
Yeah.
10 miles up to that peak.
Bless them. Right? I've seen some pictures of, jackeries and solar panels and all kinds of stuff, but it's what you want to make it too, right? And that's kind of the fun part of it. You make it however you want to. There's no set rules. And part of it is like, are you gonna go backpacking? How far are you gonna go? How much weight can you carry? Do you need to put wheels on it? Be helpful. Depends where you're going with it most of the time. How much power you want, how much of an antenna you're gonna carry along too. Let's see what else. Oh, data modes, that's why the PowerPoints remind me of stuff. You know, if you want to go run data modes, if you want to do PSK or FT8 or any of that stuff, yeah, you're going to need to pack a little bit of extra. If you're just running phone off a microphone, right? There's a lot different type of equipment you're going to need than if you want to go digital, start carrying little computers and signal links and stuff like that. Hear about, how about APRS too? Are you set up for that? If you want to do positioning and locations on Google Maps or whatever. And then there's some other things to consider that are maybe other Go kits. You can break them up, right? Do you have enough stuff for the weather you're going to accompany or where you're planning on going? Do you have the stuff together for that? Power. Of course, if you start building a big Go box, probably going to need a big power supply and battery or different battery. What type of enclosure you want to build your Go box out of? It's like this one here is a flight case. It's pretty rugged. We'll talk about this a little bit. And it's like, do you have a budget you want to stick to? And usually the budget's zero. And, right? We're cheap. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just as bad. And so you can say, what can I do with the money that I have, right? So I have some in the PowerPoint has some things listed here for the Go kit for where I researched what would be in there, different parts of like an antenna Go kit, the Go kit checklist, or how to build a Go kit. I had done some surfing online before I actually got started, see the different types and how you do it, right? Some Go kits are packed up for just Pelican cases that are filled with foam, and folks pick up their radio off the table and stick them in a box and they're ready to go because there's not much there. Some can be bigger and have more stuff.
Or like mine, 5 Pelican cases.
Yeah. Is that what you got? Is that why we didn't see it here?
That's right.
Okay, so that's the introduction of how I was getting started with mine. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And so for me, what I wanted to do for my Go kit was I have way too much clutter in the station. So I wanted to have a Go kit to first help me with the clutter. And secondly, if I wanted to go someplace, I really hated tearing apart computer cables. I had a couple older tube radios with I have a manual antenna tuner, and I had the one system kind of interlaced with the tube system and different tuners and antenna switches. And it's like, this is insane, right? It was hard to tear apart, and when something went wrong, I was like tearing the whole thing apart. So that was two things. And then one of the other things I used to do a lot, not so much as much anymore, but I really like to do special event stations. We had done them like when the 611 got launched, got rebuilt. We put a special event station down there, and we were doing telegraph. We were doing CW from down there, and everybody swore it was telegraph. So that was fun, you know. And on occasion, we'll do special events when there was special, I would say, programs that were community programs that were happening. Like the TV station would have a big day for the kids to come in for safety awareness, and then we would have a station there showing emergency radio operations, things like that. So that's a good thing to have ready for a Go kit, because you just pick it up and go. You don't have to prepare that much beforehand. And we used to do a lot with radio merit badge and teaching hand classes, and remote places so that we could actually take the equipment with us and do demos for folks. Okay. And then the other thing was I'm real limited at home with the type of contacts I can get because I'm on the side of a mountain and the antenna's on the side of a mountain. So if I go outwards where the air is clear and I can see, yeah, I get really good propagation. Behind me is a mountain, like I would say 100 feet. No, it's like
No, inverted V, so you can get over the mountain.
I can't. I'm halfway up.
Inverted V, so you can get over the mountain.
It
HF.
barely makes it. It doesn't go very well, right? Because it's the mountain is still 200 feet higher than where I am. So I want to be able to take the station and go places where I can get better propagation. So there we go. So there's all my reasons for building a kit. And then I got lucky and I got a couple of shopping carts for building some projects so that I could order parts and it didn't cost me a whole lot. Like, okay. So getting started, I thought, okay, what kind of equipment I wanted in the kit? For me, I wanted to have the newer stations. I didn't want to put my tube radios in there. They're
Why
heavier.
not?
They're heavier than the SCO box anyway.
Hey, they're more durable and a nuclear explosion for fancy SDRs.
They have handles on them, right? They don't need a go box,
Any other reason?
but besides that, they're heavy.
Well, that and the tubes rattling around and stuff like that's not good on.
Yeah, that's probably true too.
And you find the tube.
Yeah. And I know for a lot of kits, I see a lot of people using the smaller radios too, right? So they will figure out what kind of radio they want in their kit. They're going for low power a lot of times. They want to decide whether they have the power source in their kit or not. Yeah, I kind of went a little overboard with the power rating of the radio. I want to use it at full power at 100 watts. So that kind of limits how much battery I could put in here. I had a rough layout. One of the things I had to think about when I was doing the layout was how much room would I need for wires and how much room for ventilation. You just can't just start shoving stuff in a box, right? So you have to have a little bit of a strategy. I remember Daryl had, is this yours, Daryl? Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome.
Well said, if you have one, please bring one.
For the raffle tonight?
50-50.
No, 50-50 tonight, does sign here.
So, you got to have, you may have to have ventilation or even fans in the box if you do it right. That's what my box is a little different. My box does not fully enclose all the shelves. And I figured that I'm probably not going to ship this overseas for a de-expedition. So having a flight case fully enclosed didn't make sense. It made more sense to me if I ordered the shelves bigger than the enclosure. I can put a cover on the face and stick stuff there. And then just drop this in the car, and then that gives me access to a lot of stuff. And we can talk about that here in a minute.
You want a 4-foot case? I can get you one.
I may need it. Put my body in.
That looks pretty heavy. How many pounds is
I don't know. I picked it up and brought it in.
It
It's
depends
fun.
on what battery he's got in it.
That's funny you should mention that because stage 2 is to be redoing my portable antennas. And I have a family of portable antennas. The bases are buckets filled with concrete.
okay?
Ooh, that would be heavy. Yes, it would.
And one of them's getting to the point where it's like, yeah, I think I need to redo this one. Okay, so back to that. So you gotta get an idea too, how much power you're gonna be consuming and the type of power, whether you're gonna run AC, DC or whatever. You think about all these little things. And if you're gonna be using metal, you don't have to build these things. This got plastic too. It doesn't have to be plastic or metal. You can use wood, you can use like sand or whatever you have around the house. You can do whatever you want, right? And so it could be metal, it could be nuts and bolts, it could be rivets, it'd be plastic brackets, Velcro, tie wraps, whatever you want to do. As long as you got a plan, and it's a good plan. And then you got to have a plan B. It's like, how am I going to fix stuff, right? If it doesn't go well. Okay, so next slide. That is the one line of my go box. This is what I was shooting for when I started putting it together. So I was going to have Kenwood TS480 in there, and it has a separate keypad, so I was going to include that. And then it has some flexibility. It's got a power supply that I use when I'm plugging in the walls from home. I was going to keep that in the go box as well. If I'm running from a generator, I just plug that in, right? And it's just like running from home. In there too, so I have a power strip, so I can plug all this stuff in. And I wanted to make sure I was going to run single sideband. I have a microphone in there. I might want to run CW. I was going to have the key is in there. And up here, it says this Latte Panda 3 Delta. That's a single board computer that runs Windows 11. I wanted to make sure I had that single board computer in there because it's very low profile.
And low wattage.
Yeah, I don't know if you call it low wattage. I think it's 36 watts or something like that.
No. Still, that's low wattage.
Is there that low wattage? Okay. And I had the monitor, and then the monitor I found out was 40 watts, so even more than this PC does. I want to have little speakers. Yeah, I started putting all kinds of stuff in there. And I had some rough plans that if the ventilation would be a problem, I have some small muffin fans that are 115 volts. The relay control, and the Latte Panda has some other stuff built in it that I could build logic, actually do temperature regulation and control for all three shelves if I wanted. And I actually have built that for one shelf before I tested it, so I knew it would work. And then in the case, it's like, well, what's if we have a battery? I have a battery source, right? If I wanted to do that. Well, okay. We can pick the battery, put it through this inverter, just switch and power supply. Kind of redundant. You lose efficiency of wattage. But anyway, it's there if we could do it. Want to do it, right? And then still need this 115 volts for some other things, like the power supply for the Latte Panda 3. Well, I also have Signal Link in there. So we have battery power. And I had this other little gadget up there. This was a solar power converter. And the job of that was in case we just happened to bring a solar panel with us, that while I was running and I had battery, I could actually, it was a sunny day, I could actually have it recharge the battery while I'm running. So it's like I had all kinds of stuff in here. That's what I had it mounted on top. Velcro. There you go. Solar converter. Hold it.
Have you
Plugs and
tested it?
everything. What's that?
Have you tested it?
What's that? The solar converter?
Yes.
No, because I don't have all the parts yet. Actually, the biggest part that I was missing was the battery. And I have a funny story about the battery on the next slide.
Okay. Reason I said that, some of those solar controllers are RF noisy.
Yeah, they are. And this is probably one of them, because there's two different regulation types. One of them tries to keep the solar panels at their max power point. This one doesn't. I haven't really tested that part of it yet. Okay. So like we had mentioned, there's different types of boxes you can get for transporting your equipment. There's this is like a flight case. The Pelican case we talked about is a plastic case. It's filled with foam. It's like you pack guns in it, or you pack radio equipment in it, or your cooking equipment if you was very delicate.
Also, instead of Pelican, you can go get them from Harbor Freight at a third of the price.
There you go. There's a lot of that you get there. Or, like I said, you don't have to build a box. I mean, you don't have to buy a box. You can build one out of wood if you want. I've seen those pictures of them on those online resources. Just take a piece of plywood, put all your stuff on it, pick it up, take it there. Depends how big it is.
Plywood and PVC.
There you go. Okay.
With aluminum foil.
Okay, so I was able to actually get all that stuff in there. Hey, Frank. I was actually almost complete, get all that magic equipment in the box. The only thing that I didn't fit in there was the monitor. And I have a 7-inch monitor, but 7 inches is kind of hard to read. Okay, so like, okay, I don't have everything figured out exactly like I wanted it, but I'm pretty close. So I brought a bigger screen here. And let's see. That's also on this slide. So let's go next slide. Okay, now I just was kind of getting off topic a little bit. This is a server rack that you see in places that have computers and stuff. And the only reason I was bringing that up, yeah, don't get too excited. I knew this is kind of erotic, isn't it?
Can
So when I got seriously, sorry, when I got the flight case, I had to start dealing with something a little bit foreign to me. I wanted to use a 19-inch standard 19-inch rack with shelves in it. That was my choice. It was okay. So it turns out that whenever you start dealing with that, you start dealing with this foreign talk. It's called U's. And a U is like 1 3/4 inches because the programming guys can't do math.
No, the hardware guys can't do math.
So when they specify shelves for these racks, they call them 1 U's, 2 U's, 3 U's. So this case is a 6 U. And I ordered a 1 U shelf, a 2 U shelf, and a 3 U shelf.
And a U is how much? 1 3/4 inches?
Yes. Up roundabouts.
What's a U-hoop?
That's 1 3/4. It's not 2 U, but if the U-hoo is 1.5, so you still have to take up 2 U of space.
Okay, so that's why I was going to bring that up because that was something foreign I kind of learned in specifying that case. Okay, next slide, please. So the way I kind of imagined it was needed a 6 U case. I would have a 3 U size, a 1 U size, and a 2 U. Okay, so this was going to be like 5.5 inches. This was going to be the bottom where I'm going to have the radio in because this is going to be the heaviest. Then I have this one slot, 1 U, where I'm going to put the computer that doesn't have a whole lot of power to it. And I was going to put the signal link there because it's not very high. And then kind of keep this as cable section, stuff like that. This is how I was envisioning it, right? And then the top level would be power stuff. And I want to be able to get to the power cables and get to all the stuff easier. So I wanted to be able to move around up on the top shelf where I could get to it.
And be able to get your hand in there and attach coax, right? On the 3 U.
Yeah, well, for my radio, the coax is just hanging out right here. I really don't have to do very much.
You put a dongle in for your coax.
What's that?
You put a dongle from the radio out the back for your coax.
No, that's the back of the radio. It's just got two pigtails sticking on the back because that's a mobile radio that's in there. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is kind of a side view, same thing. I made two of the shelves I ordered at one length, and the middle shelf I made shorter because I was thinking that would help with circulation, air circulation and stuff. Okay, so that's what I did. So that's when I had the case just arrive. Had a case with 3 different shelf sizes, and then the solar converter and the AC inverter goes in. Okay. So as I started assembling it, this is just assembly drawings. I was doing a rough layout. You have to see, well, how does it fit, right? You try different things. So I wanted the bottom shelf to be the radio. So I put the mobile radio down on the bottom, put the keypad interface up on the bottom as well, because I want to be able to see it. I might want to touch it too. And this has got an older design, so it's got a DB9 connector for the computer interface.
What is that?
This is for hooking to the computer.
What is that? It's plugged into.
This thing?
Yeah.
That's the radio.
Okay.
Yeah. That is the transceiver.
Okay.
What brand of transceiver is that?
That is a Kenwood PS 480. Okay, so this is the skinny shelf that's only 1 3/4 inches high. And I kind of said, okay, well, let's have a layout. I was kind of a little bit restricted with it because this is the single board computer and the on button's over here. So I had to have it oriented so I could get to the on button. I said, okay, so over here, signal links over here. And here's all these interconnect cables coming into the ends, right? This is USB. This actually this is the USB 2 over here, and it's got some USB 3s. Let's see what else. And over HDMI, the power supply, what that other one is. But it's pretty full. And I just threw all the cables on top to see how much room that would take up, see how it would block ventilation, things like that. A webcam was in there too. And then here's the third shelf. So, okay, let's throw all the power stuff on there and see how it fits. Okay, so we got a power strip in there. I can plug stuff in. This is the DC to AC inverter. This is called a Panduit. It's a wired tray, the 2-inch one that stick wires in. It was going to serve 2 purposes. If I had a lot of wires that I had to bind up, there's a place to stick it. The other thing was that if I was running AC, I could take the plug and just shove it right through that Panduit channel and plug it into here. If I wanted to do it that way. But it's all kind of just like strategy, how I was going to do stuff. Plan A, plan B. Okay. Let's do the next slide. What's on the next slide? Oh, hardware. So a lot of those components, the radio itself, the transceiver, came with brackets. And that was a convenient thing about being a mobile designed radio. It runs off of the 13.8 volts, and it also had brackets with it. So all I had to do was drill bracket holes into the shelf where I wanted it, get that thing in there. And what I used was the 632 bolts. I forget how long they were, and star washers and the self-lock nuts. These are the nuts that have a plastic insert at the end. So once you tighten them down, they tend to stay tight. It won't back out and get loose. And then I'm going to talk about star washers here in a couple of little slides. Slides more. And I had this industrial strength Velcro, the signal link. It didn't have any place to go anyway. And it doesn't weigh a lot. So I was just able to Velcro it down. And then what I was going to do for the radio power supply was I actually took it apart and I was going to put screws in from the inside out so I could mount brackets on it. But there wasn't a whole lot of clearance for machine head screws and stuff like that. So I got plastic brackets, and these are for cable brackets for electrical panels. And I cut them off to the size of that component. I bolted those down and then coated them with Velcro. Actually, I coated them with Velcro first and stuck them onto the sides. This is the industrial sheet Velcro. Then I bolted the brackets down. And that way that thing wasn't going to move. So there's different ways to do it. You just got how you slay the dragon, right? Okay. This is the coup de grace of the thing. Is that did you skip a slide? Or did I? No, that was me. Okay. I use a lot of times I use star washers, and if I can too, use cap nuts. And cap nuts have this washer built in them that's kind of got jagged edges on it. And one thing I want to do is to make sure that when I'm grounding the case, that I've got good grounds all over the place. And I kind of went overboard with it. And there's a reason why. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But the thing was that whenever you're building electrical enclosures, you want to make sure that you've got a good ground bond, right? So you scrape off all the paint. You usually have a nut here. I was just using regular old bolts, so I would have star washers on both sides. And you put like a ring terminal. That was another thing that a lot of the terminals, every terminal here is pretty much a ring terminal. So that if something comes loose, they don't come flying off. They'll stay where they're supposed to. It's a pain in the butt. You have to take the nuts all the way off. But they stay where they're supposed to. And that's the same with grounds. You always put ring terminals on so they don't come off. Okay, and then this shows like the springs, when you tighten it down, it bites through all the metal and all the grease and grime and junk like that. Okay, so next slide. So I spent a lot of time looking at grounding systems for this thing. Okay, so I put some symbols up there. And here's the thing, if you look at ARRL's recommendations on grounding, it's kind of interesting because they split up grounds into 3 categories. Okay, so one of them is a safety ground. And they really didn't worry about grounding battery systems with portable stations because they're running off of 12-volt batteries. Okay, what's worse going to happen? Not a whole lot, unless you're soaking yourself in salt water, right? You're not really going to get much of a shot off it.
Well, are you electrically grounding or are you RF grounding? That's the question.
This is the thing. There's 3 categories. Okay, there's safety grounds, lightning grounds, and RF grounds. Okay, so that was talking. This is specifically going into the safety grounds. Okay, now being that I wanted to run this off the stuff at home, I went a little overboard on safety grounding. And being it's all compact in a small enclosure, and if I followed all the enclosure, rules, then chances are I wasn't going to have RF leakage either because it's not a very big package. It's not spread out. Okay, so I got a kick out of reading the ARRL grounding recommendations because they says if you're a portable station and you have lightning, what you should be worried about is not being stupid.
Go home.
It's just, yeah, it's if you're running a portable station, don't worry about having lightning protection. If there's lightning, take your stuff down and leave. I thought that was great. It's a get inside dummy. And then the RF ground, it's just if you're doing mobile, there's how you got a capacitor coupled to ground, but they really didn't go into much about having the rest of the stations. They didn't really feel that a portable station was worth getting into too much detail about RF grounding it. Now, this is another thing that's why I have this surrounded in green, because this was another interesting thing that I was researching. about the portable stations if you're running from a generator. Because they have some conventions on the grounding of the generator. This is okay. A lot of the generators have a ground fault interrupter on them, so it minimizes your risk of getting electrocuted. And then the other thing is that whenever they're building the generators, they have a bond to the generator frame, and that frame is sitting on ground. So you kind of got a natural ground there. It may not be the best ground, but it's ground, right? So they really didn't spend a whole lot of time there. This is what you do when you're running from a generator, right? You don't have to get too crazy with putting external grounds in and putting ground rods and all that stuff. So that's what I found out on the grounding. And it's just, since I have running mine from home, I put a lot of safety ground star washers. Every screw in there has a star washer on it. I also have a lug on there so that I can actually take an external ground from a ground rod and put it up with number 8 wire if I want. But it's just, that was what I had wanted to do for my kit. Okay, that was the important stuff. Just talking about the grounds and the rest of that. So I have some pictures of the grounds, and I'll turn this around and show you. It's like, but every screw that's holding down the shelf has a star washer underneath it. The back of the radio, star washer, ring terminals. You see all the paint was scraped off. There's washers of star washers underneath there, and that's connected to the chassis. It doesn't rely on the shelf for grounding. Well, you'll see that with the real one. It says it was easier to take pictures. I have some pretty beefy wire on the grounds. It's really overdone. That's okay. Okay, next slide. And we'll just keep going. I keep showing different pictures of scraping off. After I drill for the ground connection, I scraped off all the paint, sanded it down to bare metal, put washers on there. There's a star washer underneath that, and then the star washer on top. Oh, and I have, that's on the next slide. Next slide. At the next slide. Oh, okay. That was, okay. Hey, the front shelf and back shelf of these weren't electrically connected, so I intentionally electrically connected them in 2 different places. Kind of places overdid a little bit. Oh, really nice too. I have this DC to AC inverter. It was really nice, right? It runs off the DC. You can plug it in your car. It's got a 3-prong plug on the output. It doesn't have ground on it. It's for show. They take the 3rd prong and they kind of stick it down to the chassis. Well, the chassis just sitting there, doesn't have anything. So for all the power supplies, I took a screw out of the corner of them and made sure that I had a ground wire with a ring terminal and a star washer on every one of them. Just like that, to make sure that everything is grounded. Okay. Oh, now we're going to get to the fun stuff. This is I have 2 pages of surprises. Because I swagged the size of this DC inverter. So I'm running a 100-watt transceiver. I won't need much more than 100 watts or whatever. But I have a computer on there, some other stuff. And so I found this one that's like 375. Oh, that'll be plenty. But then I went back and checked the spec sheet on the transceiver. To make 100 watts on that transceiver, it consumes 283 watts. It runs 20 amps DC at 13.6 volts. And that's because of the way it's doing the modulation. It's really inefficient. So I'm like, oh, well, I messed that up. Good thing that I had picked a much bigger inverter. But then it's like, oh, okay. If I plug in the power supply, the switching power supply, well, that thing's only like 85, 90% efficient itself. Oops, so that 285 watts is now like 330. And then the board, the computer's taking up 36. If depending what monitor, I have 40, so I'm starting to inch up to 100% of that inverter. So chances are, I'm probably not going to run everything off that inverter if I do it that way. Let's see, what else is there? Maybe an upgrade. Actually, I didn't have to upgrade. I had another idea. So that was just one of the food pods that I ran into building it. It's just like, that's what makes it fun, right? If we get to the next page, let's see what other things. Oh, my Windows 11 upgraded after I put it all together, and it decided the RS-232 interface module that I had from the computer to the radio was out of date and obsolete. So it says it won't talk to you anymore. Thank you. And messing with it, and I screwed up some drivers, and I had to recover all that stuff. And so I haven't fixed that part of it yet. One of the things is I had these PC speakers I was going to use. Well, there's no way they're going to fit in this enclosure. I was kind of thinking too lofty anyway, so I unplugged them. And then when I did, I had some reconfiguration of the audio stuff, so I had to go back and fix that. But I actually have fixed that permanently now. I've got some cool stuff. And then when I went to test this running batteries, testing goes so well, and the inverter started crying. Like, what the heck? I've had a battery that came out of a wind turbine, and I looked at the date. Well, it was old 12 years ago, and I keep it in for testing stuff, but I've never really challenged it. I don't remember if you remember this. That was the battery I used to start a bonfire with when my kids were in Scouts. We took 2 wires. I took like with 12 or 10 gauge wire, and I ran it from the bonfire over to a picnic table and built my own igniters. So they were doing some Indian ceremony about the campfire. When they weren't looking, I touched it to this big battery. So it's been sitting around for a long time, and I plugged it in, all of a sudden I started screaming, and turns out the battery's not good anymore. So I go up to I didn't tell my wife, I went up to my camper, and I robbed the battery out of the camper. It's got a deep cycle battery in it. Yeah, I forgot to charge that out too. They got charged it up. Well, darn if I didn't find out that battery's gone too. So I got to replace that battery in the camper. So I still haven't fully run this thing on DC yet. And I'm still messing with the solar panels. So I haven't fully tested that because it turns out this power converter uses the batteries as control power. It's like, oh, what stupid person did that?
All those solar controllers have to have a battery load.
Yeah.
They have to have somewhere to store the power.
Yeah. So I haven't been able to test that part because I don't have a good battery yet. Gotta go do that. Okay, so there was my food pods. So actually we'll talk about, there's 2 more slides here that we were going to talk about, maybe some future programs if everybody like this one. They're for like show and tell. So what I was going to do is just open this up, and everybody, you guys can take a look at it if you want, whatever. I'm going to take the cover off. Let's just take a look at this thing. It's like voila.
Boy, you got a lot of wasted space.
Yeah, no. But it's cool. The cool thing is, like, what do I got packed in here? Well, I'm going to be on the go. This really is like, oh, look at this. I've got the band playing in here. Got some paper in case I start running CW. Got the FT8 ESK band in here stuck in the front. So if I forget, I don't have to worry about it because it's already here. Like, oh, cool. This is now my computer speakers. It's a little Bluetooth thing. Yeah. Like, oh, that's neat. I don't even have to put it in there. I got plugged in. You can plug this. Yeah, you can
So you got it plugged into the wall?
Right now, I have to plug it in the wall.
Okay, you've got it plugged into the wall, yes. Okay.
The on switch on the pad is hard to get.
Okay, yes, I got plugged in the wall, so there's like a little Bluetooth speaker here. This is kind of neat. This is my keyboard and mouse.
Look,
It's really awesome, little mini thing.
my fingers are too chubby. I would have to use 2 pencils.
Yeah, it takes a lot less room. And then if I start, let's start firing this stuff up. All the stuff fired up. I've got heat stuffed in here, just on a Velcro. Got the microphone just sitting here. Good thing smoking. That's just cigars. I like cigars in
See me afterwards at the car. I've got a cigar for you.
there. This is, it's fully operational and I can put speakers, I can play with the computer. And let's see if the internet's on. Because last I played with it, I had it set to a hotspot off my phone. That would just, I turned the hotspot on. I didn't know if I have to go back in here or not. But anyway, that's not really important because that's not the radio. The thing was that I thought it was pretty cool that I just turned my phone into a hotspot and I could turn this on and I could actually sit here and watch it. Well, that's not really what we do, but I go to QRZ, look people up still. As long as I got a phone connection.
Or a wireless connection.
Yep.
Oh, hey, yeah, that reminds me. I saw a video the other day of some amateur radio operator complaining about looking someone's call sign up on QRZ or online was doxing.
With what?
He said the entire video